Yoshi Shiraki, the author of the book, My Body's Just For Me, the book written for children to educate children on the prevention of child abuse. With the assistance of multiple-time best-selling author Richard Paul Evans, we were able to publish this book as a help to break the ice in an easy and innocent way to help children understand and learn how to speak up and communicate. I have been invited numerous times onto Good Things Utah to discuss the importance of good communication with your child in regards to abuse, and also to discuss the book My Body's Just For Me and how it's a great tool for every parent when having that tricky conversation with their children. For more information on the book My Body's Just For Me, please visit www.protectourangels.com today. And remember, the more we focus on prevention, the less we'll have to focus on rehabilitation. All right.
Man.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna have to get a copy. I don't even have a copy of that.
You don't have a copy?
Yeah, I need to get a signed copy, brother.
Yes, we will make sure that happens.
I'm not sure if that's actually the kind of book that you want a signed copy, though. Like, I mean, that's
right,
you know what I mean. Like, hey, I got a signed copy. Anyway, that would help because I have had a few awkward conversations with the children, and it's they're always like, Dad, this is a little weird. So yeah,
right.
I should have got your book a little earlier.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
well, thank you. Well, guys, we are back. It is K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. You are listening to the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and we have Jonas Utsuji in the studios as our special guest. Jonas, there are, going back to what we were talking about, there are so many components in a real estate transaction. I want to give the listeners an idea of what goes through the step-by-step of a real estate transaction. Let's take this from a seller's approach. The very first thing, and please elaborate and share on this, but the very first thing that usually happens, we talked about earlier, when somebody wants to sell their houses, we have to figure out what it's worth, right?
Absolutely. I would say that's probably like the number one. And the sad part is most realtors, in my experience, and it makes me look so much better because I just do way more than like the average guy. So most realtors are like, yeah, let me just pull some comps up here, I'll email it to you, and then they expect the client to just hire them. Or even worse, they call homie, they're like, run some algorithm, this is what your home is worth, even though it's 30 grand less than the actual value.
Right.
And boom, list the home. So that I would say that's probably so here's the thing, like this sounds so cliche, but you have to represent the best interest of your client always, like, because if you don't, that story is going to get back and be like, dude, homie sold my home for 30 G's less.
Right.
And that is not going to be good for your reputation. So I would say that's number one. When somebody's selling a home, I would say just walk the home first. See what's going on there. Does it smell like smoke? Does the carpet need to be changed? Is it and a lot of times homeowners, they don't even know. Like, right. You ask them, how many square feet is your house? I don't know.
Right.
Is it a half bath or a full bath or a 3/4 bath? I don't know. What is a 3/4 bath? Does it have a separate entrance? Is there a walkout? There are so many things that it's just get in your car and look at the freaking home. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's the least you can do for your client.
Right.
To value the home. And then, so this is a thing that I get a lot.
Okay.
Like, people are like, when they're thinking about listing their home, they're like, well, we should list it higher, right? Because they're just, the buyers are just going to talk us down. Like, that is probably like the number one most common thing that people say to me. I'll tell them, I think that we can get $350 for this house. And they'll be like, well, we should probably list it for $375 then, right? Because the buyers are just going to talk us down. I'm like, well, let me give you some real life situations here. So, it's like eBay, right?
Right.
You can do a buy it now, for a higher price and hope that somebody's just going to be impatient and just boom buy, or they'll do like, they have this new feature on eBay. It's like best offer, right?
Okay, right.
So people list it high at $300, knowing that they're actually going to take $250, right?
Right.
The problem with that is you don't create a competitive environment. See, what I tell people is I'm not selling your home on a buy it now system.
Yeah.
I'm auctioning your home.
Right.
Okay? Like if you start, the people that get the most on eBay, they do auctions. Right? Because it's a competition. You're like, oh, 20 people watching this item and there's so much time left and I better win. Like when you get, here's the thing. Arcade games?
Yeah.
I've talked to arcade owners, and they're like, the games that pull in the most money are the ones that are competition. The ones where, it's your friend, and you're like, oh, I'm going to take you down. And, next thing you know, you spent like $20 shooting baskets into getting tickets that you didn't even want. Right?
Yeah.
So you need to create that environment when you're selling a house. When they're like, they feel like there's competition.
Yeah.
Then they're like, not only do I want this home, I have to get this home.
Right.
And then they start to bid it up. So it's actually the opposite. I tell my clients, if we think it's worth $350, let's list it for $345.
Right.
Get multiple people bidding on it.
Yep.
And then drive the price up maybe even higher.
Right.
So a real life situation. I sold a home for my friend Michael up in the Foothill area. We thought it was worth, I'm not going to quote the exact numbers because I can't remember the exact numbers, but basically we figured that, let's just say for the sake of this talk, we'll say we started at 600. We knew it was worth like 615, right?
Right.
So we knew that by doing that, everybody looking in that area was going to be like, whoa, that's a killer deal.
Right.
So first of all, and I'm kind of giving away all my secrets here, but just to give you a real life example of why it's important to do this the right way. So we list it slightly lower than what it's worth, knowing that there's going to be multiple people wanting to look at the home.
Yeah, it's going to catch their eye.
So what do? You list it, and you don't just like list it and be like, okay, go for it.
Yeah.
No, you put it on the market, okay, and you say, we're not going to show this thing until the following Saturday.
Right.
So everybody that's looking in that area is like, whew, man, that's a sweet deal. I want to see this puppy, but they're not showing it until Saturday, right? So you've got like 10 people that are just chomping at the bit to get into this house.
Yep.
And what do? On Saturday, boom, we open the doors, and guess what? There's a line of people waiting to see the house, and then there's all these different people walking through the home, and the other couples that are walking through, they're looking at, dude, we better get on this puppy. There's like 5 other people in this home.
Right.
So it's all about the psychology. And see, here's the thing. Homie is not going to do this.
Right.
And they're not, because they're just trying to turn and burn. Like, I'm trying to get the most possible money. And by the way, we ended up getting 15 grand above what we thought it was worth.
That's awesome.
So anyway,
that competitive atmosphere gets everybody going, and
Absolutely.
their emotions involved.
Yep.
And once you capture someone's emotions, then it's very difficult to take that emotion away.
Absolutely, man.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Okay, so now you've determined the value of the home, you've priced it, and now it's time for showings, right? You make the next step after determining the price is now people get to come take a look at it. Do you have any tips for our listeners on the best way to present their home so that it does capture the emotions of people?
Absolutely. I tell them, take down all the pictures that you have of yourself and your dog and all that. And and I don't tell them. I say, typically, and you can imagine, I'm just talking candidly with them, you can imagine if you were to walk into somebody's house and you see all these pictures on the wall and they've got like all these, different kinds of furniture and stuff, when you look at that, you're like, this is somebody else's house, right?
Yeah.
But if it's a blank canvas and there's nothing on the walls, like it's not cluttered, people are a lot more likely to be able to see the vision of themselves living in it.
Yeah.
And not only that, when you remove the clutter, the home looks way bigger.
Absolutely.
So that's what I tell people is, try to clean out as much as you can. By the way, I pay for the storage unit if they can't afford it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll pay for it. We'll put your stuff in storage, and then just reimburse me when we close. Or sometimes I'll just be like, don't worry about it. Okay, so does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. No, that answered my question. Kind of tips and ideas on how to best prepare your home for showing.
Okay. So and then before I show the home, like if it smells like dog or cat pee or whatever, I'm like, and a lot of times the homeowners are like, what smell? And you're like, yeah, this place smells like a freaking urinal. I mean, and they don't even know because they've like lived in it forever.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah. So I find that some people, I don't have a problem with it, but some people get really offended by the smell of animals and cat hair and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I recommend doing a carpet cleaning, and of course I have a list of people that they can call. But so getting it smelling good.
Yep.
But you don't want to go crazy and use some funky smelling thing. Something like neutral. You know?
Yeah.
And then let's see if there are any like minor touch-ups or dings in the wall. Like that's an easy fix, right? I tell them, let's just get a contractor in here. And by the way, I tell them I have contractors that are willing to get paid at closing, so it's no money out of pocket. And they'll come in, they'll fix it up, and when the home closes, then you can pay them. And they're like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we do all these touch-ups. Just make it look as sexy as possible before we show it.
Yep.
Because, like, little things, like a little hole in the wall can subconsciously turn off a buyer.
Right.
So I just want to make it look as sexy as it possibly can and just remove the clutter.
Perfect. Clutter, I think, is huge. I mean, I've never opened up a house magazine or watched a house show and they're taking photos of this beautiful home full of clutter.
Yeah,
right? It's always like pristine, and there's the coffee table, and the book is perfectly on the coffee table. So clutter, I think, is huge. Okay, thank you. So now that person's been showing their home and they go under contract. So there's several phases of being under contract. Do
you mind if we back up a little bit?
Yeah.
So when I do the open house,
okay,
it's like fresh strawberries. It's the Voss waters. It's fresh baked cookies when people are coming in. Like that, I purposely time it so that right before the open house, that smell of fresh baked cookies is permeating the home.
Nice.
People walk in, they're like, this feels good. Like you want to subliminally, subconsciously, like program them to have a positive experience, and all of these things are influencing them to make them want to buy the home. So those are little things that I do.
That's great. That is great. Yeah, I've always I read somewhere in negotiation. I can't remember. It was a book that I was reading on negotiation, and when they say the book had shared that if you can trigger or enhance someone's 5 senses, you have a better chance in your negotiation. So if you can please them with what they see, please them with what they smell, please them with what they touch, taste, and hear, and you can please the 5 different senses, your chances of negotiation are better. So that's great. That's
how women talk us into marriage, man. They please all 5 senses, bro.
That's right. That's right.
They got that thing figured out.
Muhammad, are you married? Oh, so it hasn't happened. His 5 senses haven't been pleased yet. So Muhammad will have to get a lady to do that.
That's a different radio show, folks.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so now you're under contract. Going back to real estate. There's different phases of the contract. You've got, you're under contract. Typically, there's a due diligence phase. There's going to be a financing and appraisal phase. Then there is what people think is closing, but it's really settlement. And then after settlement, closing happens. During the due diligence phase, can you just share with us a little bit about, so people know what happens? Let's talk in regards to being the seller, right? Just due to lack of time, we could do both, but we'll talk about the seller. What's happening during due diligence?
Okay, so due diligence is basically the period where the buyer can back out and get all of their earnest money back. So if I'm representing the seller, I like to have the buyer have the shortest possible due diligence period. Typically, people ask for like 14 days, right?
Right.
I'm like, hey, can you cut that down to 10?
Right.
And that's another strategy I think that's very important, is you always, no matter what kind of offer you get, you always counter offer. The reason why is, even if they're offering you full price, you will counter on like the due diligence period. Why? Because the person that's offering on the home that you're listing, if you just accept that offer as is, they're like, shoot, did I pay too much?
Right.
You know, and then they start getting cold feet, right?
Right.
But if you come back and you're like, we like your offer, obviously, because it's full price.
Yeah.
But that due diligence period, like, can you chop that down to like 9 days, maybe?
Right.
Because we want to, like, if your client's not ready to go, we have like 6 other offers. You know, and you mentioned that, so that's kind of what I do.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. So now the seller is waiting for this individual through due diligence. They do their home inspection. They figure out that basically the buyer figures out they're moving forward, and due diligence ends. Now this is the point, financing appraisal, this period kicks in, and this is usually where the appraisal, granted the term is financing and appraisal, this is where the appraisal gets ordered. Can you share a little bit about that financing and appraisal, what kind of happens in that little time frame?
So we need to rewind a little bit. Before we even accept the offer, I make sure that I've already talked to the buyer's loan officer.
Great.
And I've asked specific questions. Have you verified employment? Have you done what's called a desktop underwrite? Meaning they've verified employment, they've checked credit score. What is the credit score? Is it a dual income? How long have they been at their job? These are all, are they self-employed? These are all things, because the fact of the matter is anybody can offer full price on your home, but can they perform?
Right.
Are they really going to bring the money that's going to hit my seller's bank account? That's what I'm trying to do. So the financing appraisal deadline, typically it's going to be like 3 weeks or whatever, but that's sort of irrelevant if you don't have a qualified buyer. Like the key is, have you asked the right questions to make sure that buyer is going to bring you the cash?
Right.
So that's probably the most critical part about that financing and appraisal situation. Is the buyer qualified?
Wonderful. Okay, great, excellent. So then, after this period, we have what's called settlement, which most people, as an industry, we call it, hey, we're going to closing, which really means we're going to the title company to implement the settlement, which is where you sign the paperwork. But really, closing is when you actually get access to the home. Settlement is not when you get access to the home. Nothing's been funded yet. Nothing's been recorded. You're simply just going to sign. Do you have any, things you want to share? Usually I will share with my clients, just so you know, this is not where you get the keys, right? We're just going to settlement. It could be 24 hours to as much as 4 days. The REPSI, the real estate purchase contract, states a title company has up till 4 days to actually record. So chances are you're going to get your keys though tomorrow, not today. Can you elaborate a little bit on settlement versus closing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the main thing is, and this happens all the time, right? I'm sure you've experienced this, where the buyers, they've signed and they're like, hey, do you mind if we get the keys? And my buyers move in because they've got a U-Haul and they got to return it, and I'm like, no. Right. Because if your buyer moves in while it's still under my client's name and something happens, guess who's paying for that? My client.
Yes.
So I'm like, sorry, we can't do that. When it funds and records, then you'll be the legal owner. And I mean, it's like saying, oh yeah, the title's still in my name, but here's the keys to the car. Like, who does this, right?
Right.
And what kills me is that the buyer's agents are actually asking me for this. I'm like, no, like, until you are the legal owner, you do not get the keys.
Right.
Because insurance-wise, it's just a huge nightmare if something goes down in between that time between settlement and actually funding and recording. So
Perfect, excellent.